From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hi, it's Charlie Mattowson. In this episode, we sit down with the great singer-songwriter Darrell Scott. Darrell had just released a new live album and was getting set for 2 shows at Nashville's City Winery. A lot to catch up on with Darrell Scott. Enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.
Who carried you? Who done it? Who carried you?
Our special guest, and truly one of our favorite folks to have come by and bring his guitar and sit in the studio, which we haven't been able to do for over the last year or so, is Darrell Scott. And that's what you just heard. If you're just joining us or if you've been here all along this morning, a live recording called Yaroso, which we will talk about, this great little town in Colorado that he discovered in the album cover and how he knew what he was going to choose for the artwork as he heads Thursday night to the City Winery for a 6 and an 8:30 show. If you look on the web, Darrell calls it the early and the late show. Darrell, like many of us, as the years have passed, 8:30 is now the late show. There was a time when 11:30 was probably the late show, but not so much anymore. But then his beard was dark in those days, too. I didn't have these white walls on the side either. Tickets are available at citywinery.com. Old friend, it is good to see you again. You're in Nashville. Last time you were with us via Zoom early on in the pandemic and quarantine, you were over on the Cumberland Plateau at your place. But you say you've been doing a lot of session work, so you're in town.
Yes, I'm in my Nashville place, and which is why I don't have a single instrument in the house. And that hasn't happened. I can't even remember not having even a kazoo around. No instruments are at the session, and instruments are at my studio out on the Cumberland Plateau. And we've been kind of moving things around. There's nothing in here. So I'm glad that I'm not going to be playing this morning because I'd have to just do an a cappella thing. And hey, it's also great to be one of your favorites on this show. It's so good to hear you say that.
No, when people ask me, they say, man, who do you really enjoy? I mean, I don't want you to hurt anybody's feelings, and then you keep it between us. But, when you have people then, who do you really just love? And Darrell Scott is always on the tip of my tongue as far as folks that I just sit there and I am wowed and I am honored that you take the time to come see us and share your incredible talent. Who carried you from the new album Yaroso? I know your daddy would say, hey, if he were still around, I carried that boy along the way. Yeah, I taught him what he knows.
Yeah, he did. My dad was a Kentucky through and through. Country music, loved it more than anybody. And brought that to me and taught it to me. We grew up on WSM. We could hear it up in northern Indiana. My dad was a steel mill worker. Our first vacation was to the Grand Ole Opry when I was 6 years old. Got my first bass at a pawn shop on Broadway and played that thing in the family band for years and years and years. So we have a huge WSM, Grand Ole Opry, Nashville, Tennessee connection. It was a hillbilly's dream to go see where that music was coming from. When you grew up in tobacco farming, Depression era Kentucky, like my parents did.
Yeah, so the streets were not paved with gold as you probably thought they would be when you got to Lower Broadway. Huh?
Not at all. And it was a whole different deal down there then. You know how Broadway has changed, right? Remember there was the 60s Broadway, 70s Broadway, and it turned kind of dark there for a while. Then there was talk about taking down the Ryman and all that stuff. And then the revitalization where, it's alive and well down there on Broadway and the Ryman.
Charlie, I often quote Marty Stewart, and he does his song at sundown in Nashville, where they sweep broken dreams off the streets. Yeah. That was the era that was going on when Darrell came for the first time at age 6, it sounds like.
And with the joy of the Pedal Tavern, sometimes there's too much life on Lower Broadway. We could do with a little boredom. I think I told you this one time, Darrell, but if someone were to ask me the quintessential Darrell Darrell Scott song, and there are so many that I love from your catalog, I would always send them to a song you probably did about 8 or 9 years ago called Colorado. And I was so thrilled to see that Colorado closes this album. But there's a very good reason why Colorado closes this album, because the more we learned about Yoroso, the more we realized that Colorado is the perfect closer for this album.
Exactly. And you'll find on the notes, there's actually, in this, only I could do this, there's 2 songs called Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, try that one out sometime, major label.
You couldn't find something that rhymed with New Mexico?
And the other Colorado song, and yes, I was in Colorado. Okay. That town is in, if you went another mile, you'd be in New Mexico. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So,
Yoroso is the name of the town, from obviously Spanish, Jaroso. An unincorporated community, which those are my favorite communities on the planet, or the unincorporated communities.
Yeah.
By the way, that usually means you're on septic. You don't have sewer running through town. They do have a post office in Castillo County, Colorado, down on the New Mexico border, and it is Spanish for willows. I researched and found out this morning. That's what it means, Darrell.
Wow. Well, that's good. It was a beautiful little village. I'll tell you how I found this place. I have a cellist friend who bought that church that's on the cover of the album. He bought it. And because it hasn't been a church, and it was a Catholic Spanish-speaking church, 30, 40, 50, 60 years and plus, he bought it, and he thought it would make a nice space. So that's where we recorded. So there was no PA system in this recording, which in live recordings, PAs are always a problem. They're just a problem. They're a way to get your sound to the people, but they're a pretty bad way of trying to get sound to a recording because of all the noise and the this and the that. So we're sitting in that church there, 40, 50 people, non-advertised show, just kind of word of mouth, last minute, with live mics, 4 of them, 1 on my guitar, 1 on my voice, and 2 for the audience, and off we go. And that's what you hear on this record. And by the way, I still don't know whether it's Yoroso or Yoroso.
Okay.
And I does it say that in your cue card?
Here's what it said. I don't know. What would you guess the population to be, Darrell, of Yoroso?
50.
50? Okay.
Yeah.
Here, this 50 people and 2,566 nearby mines in Yoroso, Colorado.
Yeah.
So it obviously is mining country, or once was anyway.
Yeah, it's very desolate. The only thing there was a used car lot from maybe 50 years ago, and a gas station from 60 years ago, and then this abandoned church that my friend revitalized, and that's where we recorded, inside that little spot.
Wow.
Yoroso is out now. Thursday, 2 shows at the City Winery, 6 and 8:30. Tickets are available at citywinery.com. And in the minute or so we've got left, so what's it going to be like to actually have a live audience and do a first show and say, hey, listen, run out there and buy you a ticket and come back for the second show. I'll be even better later on.
You know what? The City Winery here in Nashville has always been a great show. It's folks turn out to it, great sound system and all that. So with the pandemic, they're putting the shows outdoors. So there's a tent.
Oh, okay.
And then it's half capacity. So people are doing all the, we're outdoors, and we're doing the social distancing, half the audience, so you're not crowded in together, and 2 shows. So, we're going to find out what it's like to have a live show. But I did do a run in Florida a couple weeks ago, and people are ready. People are ready for what we haven't had for so long, which is live music and being in an audience and that exchange. So I'm hoping it's going to be fantastic, and people hungry for this. I'm hungry for it.
Speaking of hungry, have you put in your garden? You working on your garden over on the plateau at the farm?
Yeah, the peas were one of the first things to go in, and we're going to get peas here probably in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, you know where we are. All right.
Yes.
If you want a social distance, just put a brown bag outside the studio door. We'll know where we got them, okay?
I'll find you guys. I got food.
bringing the groceries. That is Darrell Scott, and he brings the groceries in the form of music. 2 great shows at 6 and 8:30 this Thursday. citywinery.com for ticket information. Thanks so much, old friend.
Thanks. Great to see you guys.
You too.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our program director at WSM Radio is J. Patrick Tittle. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director is Amanda Cannon. And I'm Charlie Matos. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help new people find the show.